How about this? Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome into the program, the Four Verticals podcast on this Friday. How about that? A special Friday edition for January 3rd, 2025. Happy New Year. Hopefully, everyone had a Merry Christmas. Hopefully, you guys have been enjoying the playoff games, the very sparse, fun games there have been. More on those just a little bit for reaction to this past round games. Of course, if you're new here, we took off for a couple weeks for the Christmas holidays. Well, for one, it's the holidays, and also I was traveling, so now I'm officially back. Um, so we couldn't do any shows, so I couldn't react to any of the other playoff games, like the round one games that much, or the round two games, or excuse me, yeah, the round one games, and then the games uh yesterday, yesterday, but we'll be writing to those. But anyway, we've been off for 2 weeks, and I haven't been able to give my full thoughts on a whole lot of stuff. Not only the playoff, but the transfer portal. A lot of moves being made. I'll probably touch on those next week once we get through this weekend. But not to mention too, the NFL playoff race is heating up for Tampa Bay. Need to win tomorrow, or excuse me, not tomorrow, Sunday to be in the playoffs. Of course, last time since we have talked, they have lost to Dallas. Disposed of the Panthers. That's good. So they are slowly making their way towards the playoffs, and they just need to win next week or this weekend. I keep saying next week, and then they'll be in the playoffs. More on that towards the end of the show. No real Marvel stuff to talk about or Star Wars topics today. We'll probably push those to next week, I think, just to keep the show a little bit short because it's a little inside note here. Caught some sort of a cold, so if you hear me coughing or clearing the throat here, that's why. So just to keep the voice surviving here and make sure I'm not dying later, we are not going to have a very long show per se, so hopefully it'll be like an hour or so. Trying to keep it under an hour, but we have a lot to talk about regardless. But a lot of college football and then Tampa stuff. So if you're new here, first of all, welcome in. Happy New Year, like I said. Hope you had a good holidays. Back to normal life. First of all, if you are here, make sure you are subscribed. There are 4 of you, so that's good. I'm sure there are more of you that are not. So if you haven't, make sure you do. Nothing happens. I don't, knock on your door, force you to sign up for something. I don't call your phone. I don't send you text messages. I don't send you emails. It's all free. And also, by the way, follow me on the old Twitter X, if you will, as well. That is 4verge_pod on Twitter. Been getting a lot of interactions on there lately, a lot. And also, again, follow us on or subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on the on Spotify, the good old Spotify podcast feed. It helps us out a lot, gets the name out there. I know we're a fairly new show. For those of you who are new, we've been around since the summer. Been doing this for I think 7 months now, so getting close to the anniversary here, 1 year anniversary. But yes, we started live on YouTube, and we were originally just a Spotify exclusive, but now we are doing both Spotify and YouTube. So if you're new here, if you're tuning in because of the playoffs, welcome in. This show will not take any long form breaks after this. I think we will be fine going forward until any, other vacations or stuff like that. But from now, probably until sometime in the summer, I think we'll be okay. We'll be doing weekly shows more than likely. So buckle up, Sharp. Even though yes, the national championship game is in 20 days or so, or actually 17 days. Just because the national championship happens doesn't mean the show is going away. It's not going away. We still have spring ball, transfer portal, recruiting, some predictions, some other different topics and things that have planned out for the spring and summer. Of course, previews and stuff, and other coverage for Marvel and Star Wars. And this show's not going anywhere. It's not going anytime soon. So it's a 365 mostly show. Just because we don't have college football games every single week of the month or every single week of the year doesn't necessarily mean we don't do a show. We do a show, even though it's games only played in fall and until late January or until mid-January. So that's our policy here, and that'll always be the case as long as this show exists. So welcome in, strap yourselves in. Got a pretty jam-packed show here. I know it's cliche to say that, but it really is. And this is going to be a very fascinating show here. Very excited to get into some of the stuff. I've not talked at all about any of these or any of this college football playoff stuff. And very excited to finally get into that. So here we are. I'm gonna take a quick drink of water here and get myself set up here, just make sure we have all the games ready to discuss, and then we will begin. So, and, just a couple of days ago, Penn State destroyed Boise State 31-14. Penn State is now 13-2. They are now heading to the Final Four. And they are once again proving people wrong. Again, James Franklin, everyone's saying, oh man, he can win the big game. He can't make it to the national championship. He can't do this, can't do that. Well, here they are. Here they are, one win away from Notre Dame, from beating Notre Dame of all people, not Georgia, to make it to the national championship. Interestingly, I actually picked Penn State to make it to the Final Four, so someone here was actually smart to pick them. This was total domination by Penn State. Everything that I thought they would have done. So basically, copy and paste what I said about SMU to this game. Basically, the exact same thing. Penn State, with the physicality, can't just out physical Boise State, and they did. And they did exactly what I think a team like them should have. I mean, Kate Allen had a big day. Drew Aller, very efficient, 3 touchdowns. Penn State defensively, very physical as well. Handled Ashton Jenny. He like, 30 carries, 104. I mean, 104 yards. May sound good for a spring game, but for an actual playoff game, that's pretty jarring, especially for someone as good as him. And look, I'm not discounting him at all. I mean, Boise State had a fantastic season. I don't think a loss should retroactively make people think, well, it should make people retroactively think, oh man, just because Boise State lost this one game, they should have made the playoff, even though, 2 weeks ago I was pom-pomming them to make it in. Boise State deserved to be in. We can criticize the format all you want, but I think Boise State should have totally been in here. They were a good team. They carried themselves well. It wasn't like a massive 65-7 blowout. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the score doesn't look good. And yes, Penn State did physically outnumber them. But I think Boise State handled themselves well. It's tough. It's very tough, especially when you get into this time of the year with injuries piling up and depth concerns, and the fact that Ashton Jenny has had the year, or is it Jenny or Genty? It's Genty. I keep seeing Jenny. Ashton Genty, the season he has had, it should not be overlooked. Yes, could you make the argument? Well, yes, Penn State physically outnumbered Boise State's offensive line. I think you could also make the argument too, and I think when I was watching this, that didn't seem like Genty was fully healthy. I think he definitely shown some wear down, some wear and tear. They've running him a lot, and I think it definitely showed a little bit on what was it, when this game happened, on Tuesday, I believe. That Tuesday. On Tuesday, I think it definitely showed that he's been more down, and you can't always rely on one player. I know a lot of people are going to be criticizing Maddox Madison. Madison, the quarterback of Boise State, and it wasn't really his fault. Yes, he had 3 interceptions. Actually threw for 304 yards. I didn't realize that, but I mean, there's not much I can really say from Boise State. They just got physical. Penn State really flexed their muscles in this game. I think James Franklin also, in some ways, proved a lot of people wrong. That just because, and going back to what Josh Payne always said, just because you haven't done something doesn't mean you can't do it. There's a difference between cannot and have not. Penn State has not been able to compete, play for a national championship, or get in the playoff. Now here they are, and they've won 2 games. Now, I will say this, and I'll echo what Peyton said yesterday about a lot of teams. Can they duplicate this? Can you copy and paste this performance? Excuse me, to Notre Dame next week? I believe it's next Friday, I believe, or Thursday. I'll have to check and see when the games are. Or can you duplicate this? Can you copy and paste? Because Notre Dame's very physical too. I mean, they showed yesterday as well. If you haven't watched Notre Dame since the Boys lost, you're statistic like me. Notre Dame's a very physical team. Now, yes, offensively there are some limitations there, but you can also look at it every way and saying, well, maybe they were saving that stuff for the playoff and they just navigated through. And we'll talk about that more about that later. But Penn State can match up with Notre Dame. There's no doubt in my mind they can. Probably the best running back room they faced all year. I think maybe even the best quarterback they faced all year, obviously, and I think the best coaching staff they faced all year, or at least one of them. Obviously, well, I'm not discounting Kirby Smart in them, but just in terms of some of the offensive talent they have on the field, especially at running back, best talent they faced all year, and that says a lot. Of course, Kate Allen and Nicholas Singleton Those are 2 of the best running backs of really of all college football. Um, and this is gonna be a challenge for Notre Dame. And for Penn State, again, James Franklin, rarefied air for them. They have never been in this situation before, and in fact, I noticed has been exhausted it since, the last 15 hours, and think about this, friends. Every single team now in the Final Four, their head coach has never been or has never won a national championship. 3 of the 4 teams have ever been to this point. Ohio State has been there before. Penn State has not. Texas, well, actually 2, actually, so half. 2 of them have. Penn State has not, nor has Notre Dame. Well, actually, again, take that back. 3 have been there. Notre Dame, I forgot, 2020, and also like in 2019, I believe. But Penn State is not. So they're literally the newcomer. But in terms of them winning a national championship, or all these 4 teams, will be a first time head coach winning it. So this goes for Penn State, goes for Ohio State, goes for uh, Texas, and it also goes for Notre Dame as well. But once again, man, Penn State, James Franklin proving people wrong. And look, even if Penn State loses next week, I'm not dissing them. I'm not putting James Franklin on a hot seat. I'm not sending him to Guantanamo Bay. It's a great season. Like, of course, now everyone's now making, they're moving the goalposts. They're like, "Oh man, James Franklin won this one. Huh, he should have won. He'll lose next week." So, like, now you're just telling me a few months ago that James Franklin was overrated. He's properly rated. Like, them making it to the final is a big deal. Like, that is extraordinary for Penn State. Huge deal. So what? Now we're gonna say, "Oh, making the Final Four is not good enough anymore." It's like what now? What, the FBI is on a raid at State College and take James Franklin's like computers and whatnot, and find him. What was the IRS gonna capture the Penn State football team for fraud or whatever? Like, no, no, no. This is a good team, and then making it to the Final Four thing is proving a lot of people wrong. And also, I should remind you politely, I had Penn State going to this game. It's on January 9th. So this will be in about 6 days. So what is that? That's the Thursday game. So I had them making this game. Now, granted, I got the other 2 teams wrong, Arizona State and Georgia, but I actually got 2 of these opponents right. So how about that? 2 of the Big Ten teams. But yeah, no surprise here for Penn State. They're in the Final Four, and now it opens a whole other door of possibilities now because now you've limited large part of Notre Dame, Georgia, who is the most veteran head coaching roster, roster and overall in terms of players, coaching staff. They're not there anymore, so that's not an obstacle. Now, not this in Notre Dame either, because Notre Dame is a very physical team. Again, they can match you. Notre Dame certainly can, especially defensively. But makes you wonder. It certainly opens the door of possibilities. Penn State actually once again people even more wrong if that's the national championship. But then again, they make it there, and everyone says, "Oh man, Penn State's overrated. James Franklin's an idiot," and it's like, okay, whatever. It's like, what do you want them to do? Win the national championship year? Like, not it's not possible anymore. Whatever. Everyone's just gonna get all mad, and you know, temperature is gonna be out of control. But hats off to James Franklin. Congrats to Boise State for making it this far. It sucks. I know we can talk about the auto bid format and how that's probably going to be changing next year, and I'm sure that'll be headlines this spring. But it is what it is. It is what it is, and until they change it, we can't. There's nothing I can do about it. So, Penn State 31-14, and they are 1 win away. James Franklin and company, one win away from once again proving people wrong that they are serious and they are a serious program. And now they have the ability or they have the access now to get in because of the expanded playoff. Now here they are. People will still doubt them because it's stupid little Penn State because Penn State's stupid. James Franklin's an idiot. He will be a clown and have no brain, but whatever. And thus, some people call him the comedian, but I don't understand why. Speaking of someone who has proven people wrong, Ohio State blew out Oregon a couple days ago on Wednesday, 41-21. How about that? It's a strange thing, when you get to play these teams and when you have, a sequel game of the year. The whole adage of it's hard to beat teams twice. The NFL is like this. It's hard to beat teams twice. College football is the exact same way, and Oregon found out the hard way. I will talk about Oregon here in a little bit because I think it's more impactful for Ohio State here to talk about this and how, what's the significance of this. I was thinking very well in the national championship. I'm not the only one saying that clearly. I mean, Josh Payton mentioned it yesterday. A couple 3 guys have mentioned it. Like, this Ohio State team is the most talented team left in the, left of all the teams are still, playing. The most talented team. No doubt in my mind. They're the most talented team, the best head coach in the of all of the 4 teams left, and it's a very dangerous team. It's a very, it's an extremely dangerous team to face. Not that they're gonna hurt someone, but they are they're at a level right now where they are a literal machine. Now, I'm not saying they're Bert Kreischer, that's a different type of machine, but they're a machine in terms of because of the roster talent, they can do so many different things to you, not only with their receivers, with Mecca Ibuka and Jeremiah Smith, but with the running back room, with the quarterback room, with Will Howard. But just Ryan Day in general. Like, think about this. The conversation 2 weeks ago before I went off the air for the last few weeks as a vacation, the talk around Ohio State was, "Man, they lost to Tennessee. Ryan Day's gonna be fired." Look how far we've come. You know, here they are. They're now in the Final Four. Everyone thought that they were gonna lose to Tennessee. Folks proven wrong then. They play Oregon. Everyone's like, "Oh man, here comes, Oregon and Dan Lanning and Dylan Gabriel and a really good Oregon team that's undefeated and this, that, and the other. Ryan Day's an idiot and he's stupid too, and he's gonna get fired if they lose. And here they go, 41-21. Here they go once again, and it's just crazy to think how far just the college football is crazy, man. 2 weeks ago, Ryan Day, everyone thought he was gonna get fired and lose to Tennessee at home, no less. And then there's the whole, Tennessee invasion, the fan invasion. Turn around and dispose of them, go up to Pasadena to face Oregon, a team they've already played before and they lost, and it's in a classic, and just ultimately just splatter them all over Los Angeles, just their blood all over the place. That's not referencing anything. That's just a metaphor. I know it sounds kind of gory, but that's sort of what happened. Man, kudos to Ryan Day, man, and that whole staff there. Chip Kelly, Jim Knowles, defensive coordinator there. There's this something that Josh Payton mentioned. I think it was. I mean, I watched this show last week. A comment that he got from I think it was a coach that he's in contact with about facing a team like Oregon having to face Ohio State, but knowing that they're facing the most experienced coaching staff, or at least a group of coordinators in America. And this is why it's so important this is why college football coaches emphasize hiring the right staff. Chip Kelly is, for the longest time, a lot of people consider him the best, offensive mind off college football. And he's still, I mean, he's not there anymore. I mean, whoever people have surpassed him, I think. Excuse me. There's one cough, actually 2 now. But I've shown there's been other coaches that have surpassed him. Lincoln Riley, you can make the argument. Lane Kiffin, Sark over at Texas. But I look at Ryan Day and his hiring of Chip Kelly, how significant that has been, and not even just Chip Kelly, but also Jim Knowles too. Because remember, they had who was it? Who's that old defensive coordinator that they had before Jim Knowles? I forgot his name. I don't know why I don't remember his name. Let me look this up real quick. 2021, and here we are doing some research on the fly here. How do I forget this guy's name? Yeah, Kerry Combs. So remember when Kerry Combs was the DC at Ohio State back in 2021? Ironically, the last time before this year when they played Oregon. That defense is not good, and obviously the narrative around Combs was, well, he wasn't a defensive coordinator before this. That brings him some questions. Why are you just now hiring a guy that has never been a coordinator? Ryan Day made a mistake. He corrected that mistake. He brought in Jim Knowles from Oklahoma State. Clearly, I think Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy clearly missed him. If you haven't seen Oklahoma State football this year, I would not recommend watching that. But Jim Knowles has probably been the best thing that's ever happened to Ryan Day. Not even just Chip Kelly, but just Jim Knowles in period. Because the narrative around Ohio State for a while was, well, defense has always been the Achilles heel, even going back to the later years of the Urban Meyer era. Not anymore. JTT, Jack Sawyer, all those guys, all that potential was still there. It's like in Georgia this year, or at least at times. The potential was always there for them, but they haven't always shown it. Ohio State has been showing it the last 2 weeks. They have, like I said, they have been a machine on the defensive line, just dominating Tennessee, dominating Oregon, who's a much better O-line than Tennessee ever has had in the last 20 years. And Ohio State, Jack Sawyer, JTT, they were just all over the place. Like, it's like, man, it's every single play watching that Rose Bowl. It's like, there goes JTT, there goes Jack Sawyer, there goes never Ohio State defensive lineman. It's like, man, Jim Mills is calling the best game of his life. But it's not even just that; it's just the talent and utilizing that talent, which is something that of course Kerry Combs wasn't doing 3 years ago. So now the question is for Ohio State. Of course, I mean, another thing we can also talk about ad nauseum is the wide receiver room. Like, my gosh, like Jeremiah Smith, Mecca Ibuka, like those are, man, they're gonna make some, especially Jeremiah Smith. Now, granted, he's got 2 more years left, but man, some NFL teams are gonna be so happy to get him in a few years. Him, Ryan Williams, and Cam Coleman at Auburn too. Can this go back to what I was saying about Penn State? Can you copy and paste? Is this is this something that Ohio State can do? Because if they can do it, because I think teams can. Obviously, I mean, there's the difference between cannot and can't have not. I think Ohio State can do it, but can't. But is there, will they be able to do it? Is the question. Because they can do it. It's gonna be tough because they're going against a very good defense in Texas, a better defense than it was last year. Offensively, I think they've gone a little bit worse. But that's college football. That's attrition. Obviously, you can't account for injuries too. So obviously, we don't have. I'm not Doctor Strange. I can't look into the future and predict. Oh, this one player from Ohio State's gonna get injured. That could change the whole entire season for them. But everything stays a course for them. They stay healthy and they stay locked in. This team will probably win the national championship. Or I shouldn't say they will because that seems a little bit too definitive. They can make it. I don't know if they can though. It's just a very thin line here because Texas is a very talented team too. And here I am, sound like I'm doing the preview for the game. We'll do that next Tuesday. But this is a Ohio State team with the talent they have, the coaching staff they have, and the veterans they have on that staff of Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly. Very dangerous. Very dangerous team. They have the potential to do a lot of damage. And I'm not gonna repeat what Josh Pate said verbatim, but I understand where he's coming from. That this team, at least personality-wise, sort of has that, 2019 LSU, 2010 Auburn vibe where they're just on a whole other level, man. And like Ranch is a little bit different because obviously in 2019 it was just a 14 playoff. Then in 2010 it was the just two teams because the BCS. So you have one more game here. Again, you're going against a very very good team. Again, it's like Texas and they're not stupid. Like they've seen Ohio State. I can guarantee you all the film they ever can watch of them from the Tennessee game, and obviously they're watching the film against Oregon. Trust me, Sark and that staff, they will have a plan in place defensively. I know they will. I can guarantee you they will. There are procedures and contingencies possibly in place to contain Mecca Ibuka, Jeremiah Smith, and that running attack for Ohio State, and be able to handle the defensive line for Ohio State. There's no doubt in my mind they're at least planning that out. Will it work? I don't know if it will work. Who knows? Excuse me. Real quick here about Oregon, and then we'll move on because again we're at 23 minutes here. I'm not going to go that long today. But for Oregon, it's tough. It really is tough. I know a lot of the fan base up there and wherever we live in Eugene or Portland or any of those areas. Maybe not in Corvallis, Oregon, but maybe you don't care. I know those fans are hurting right now. Oregon, I know the stigma around Oregon. To me, it's a little bit overblown. The fact that they have 0 national championships and they have 1 Heisman winner and this and the other. Look, I get it. It's their Oregon's not a traditional brand or anything. They're not like this, sacred mecca of college football. They're not, but that's not a bad thing. Clemson is not. Clemson is not a mecca of college football. I don't think, even though they've won national championships. Oregon, to me, though, and Dan Lanning, while it didn't work out the way they did this year, I'm still very fascinated and watching the rest of his career and what this program is going to look like going forward, which I think they'll be back every single year. I think there is clearly a path now. The way they've been recruiting, if they can keep the staff together, obviously Will Stein, the OC there, will be a coveted head coach in Canada going forward. That's been the case for a while now. And go look at Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, kind of the similar path here. I think he's on the same trajectory as well. There's no shame in this. Yes, it's tough to play teams twice. It's hard to beat teams twice. Obviously, that came into play yesterday on Wednesday, but I'm not worried about Oregon at all. I mean, think about this, and I even mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Think about how far daylighting has come from losing 49-3 to Georgia in his first year to now here they are in the college football playoff in the Rose Bowl, and they just got handled by a better team. It happens. It happens a lot. And with this 12-team playoff, it's grueling. It's tough. Injuries and stuff can pile up. Obviously, Oregon has had dealt with a lot of those this year, especially on the offensive line. And of course, they were healthy here, and that was the more worrying part here is that this was a healthy Oregon offensive line now. There's no more injuries. I think everyone's back now, and they just got physically outmanned by an equally good Ohio State team. So there's no shame in that. My opinions on Nate Lanning has not changed at all. I'm still confident in him. I'm very interested to see how they continue to build as a program, how they will learn from this, how they continue to grow. And if there's any indication here of Nate Lanning, every single year he's been a head coach at Oregon, from his first year, second year to this year, he has learned, and every single day they've improved. Now it's not guaranteed he'll be back next year. Who knows? For all I can tell, they could be 9-3 next year. I don't know, but they will learn from this. I think they'll be back. And if there's any indication from Dane Landing Company, they have learned, and every single year they've gotten better because I think this staff emphasizes learning from their mistakes. Again, just think about where they came from losing 49-3, I believe is the score when they played Georgia in the Aflac kickoff game to now where they are now, where they were the last undefeated team in major FBS, major college football. Like that's pretty impressive to see this continue to get built and what he's actually done there and actually elevated and actually risen Oregon football to now they will be a formidable playoff player in the Big Ten for probably the next 10 years. I mean, unless any unforeseen and major mistakes happen, I don't think Oregon's going anywhere. Dan Lanning has certainly built a machine out there, and they'll be back. They'll be back. And they'll learn from this, like I said, and we'll see what happens, what they do if the quarterback situation is obviously, Dylan Gabriel's moving on. Um, we'll see. But no shame in what happened on Wednesday. And again, like I said, for Ohio State, can they copy and paste this performance? This is a good performance. This is a big deal for them, and especially for Ryan Day. And of course, now much like James Franklin, the goalpost now being moved. Now it's like, oh, Ryan Day goes from being on the hot seat to now he's still on the hot seat because they lose to Oregon. Now it's all of a sudden, making the national championship, he get fired. That's not happening. At least to my knowledge, that's not going to happen. If anyone who's saying that, that's not true. There's no indication that Ryan Day is going to get fired. He's not going anywhere. Like, whatever. I'm not even getting the whole stupid Ryan Day hot seat conversations. That's even though it was sort of a real thing. You guys, if you've been listening to me for a while now, it's been almost a year. You guys know I don't like questioning people's job security that much. I don't like it. It feels gross. I don't, especially when discussing a position that is well above my pay grade. I don't like talking about it. I know these guys are real people. They have social media accounts. They have people who have social media accounts. They don't have one. When they hear things, they hear the toxicity. They know the temperature around their fan base pretty well. I would assume. Like Ryan Day is fine. He's fine. There's like he who remains in Loki season 2. There's no problem. At least right now, Ryan Day is safe. Okay, like I firmly believe he is safe. If he does get fired, and Ohio State, if they don't make it the national championship, they fire him. Okay, where's the definitive upgrade? Like I keep telling you guys, like I'll say it again if it does happen. I'll keep saying it with any coaching search. Where's the definitive upgrade? Where is it? To me, I don't see it. Like Mike Vrabel, nope. Some people brought up Marcus Freeman. Hell no. Not a definitive upgrade. And I think Marcus Freeman's done a fantastic job this year. I'll talk about that here in just a second or in a little bit. Like Ryan Day's not going anywhere. Like there's no indication to me right now he's not going anywhere. If it does change, and that's different, but I'll disagree with it. But unfortunately, that would be reality. But it's not reality right now. He's fine. Nothing's happening. It's okay. They're still in this. They're playing next week, if I'm recalling. They're gonna be playing. They're playing Texas. So, to my knowledge, everything's fine. So, whatever. Everyone's still gonna. Of course, this is gonna be the talking point, and it's already happening too on the major sports networks, where it's like, oh man, Ryan, they better make the national championship, or you may as well bring the firing squad and kill them. It's like, what the heck? Like, Jeez. And I know it's the national talking heads and it's the people like that. I know that metaphor seems pretty gruesome, but it's like, man, it may as well feel like that way. It's like, man, what do you want to do? Like send this guy to prison if he don't win the national championship? Like, what did he do? Ugh. Speaking of ugly, let me get to well, first of all, I'll get some water real quick, and we'll get to well, I guess not really ugly, but a very fun, messy game, if you will, Texas Arizona. Then we'll wrap up with the Sugar Bowl that happened yesterday. So I'll get some water real quick. Excuse me. I think the voice is going to make it here. We still have to preview the Bucs Saints game, so we still have a little ways to go. But some water real quick, and then we'll come back. I guess while we are here, so a reminder: make sure you subscribe and like the videos, like the stream if you're watching. I know that was a bit of a how should I say this? A little bit of a off the cuff, random. Here's a stream kind of popping up, so didn't give you guys enough time like I usually do. But if you listen to this on the replay, number one, make sure you're subscribed. There's four of you. I know there's more of you, more than just four that watch this show. I know that. I've seen you guys in the chat. But make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you like the stream. Follow me on the socials, Twitter, Spotify. Make sure you're on there. Podcast feed. We do shows every Tuesday, Thursday, at least during this time of the year. I think moving now maybe once it gets towards the summer, maybe we'll do 3 shows again, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. Maybe we'll stick just the 2 schedule. But we'll see. Texas 39, Arizona State 31. Classic, instant classic. This, it's the whole, it's the line, it's the 10 out of 10 would recommend. This is if you haven't watched this game yet, I don't know what you were doing, but classic, instant classic right here. 39-31 overtime. Thankfully we didn't have to do that stupid overtime, whatever the heck that is, crap. And this was a fun game, very fun game. Usually our rule here is that we talk about the winners first, but just because how good of a game this was, let's just talk about the losers first. Arizona State. I want to address this real quick here. If there's any doubt about Arizona State being a good team and what Kenny Dillingham has done in Arizona State and how he's built that thing after what built that fan base in Tempe and the surrounding areas or wherever you live, if you're an alum of ASU, you've had to deal with the crap of the Herm Edwards era, the latter half. Last year with the injuries and NCAA ban and the investigation, there's so much crap going on. Right? It's like great to at the same level as like the SMU scandal stuff with with Sherwood Blunt and the whole scandal with the paying players and stuff and death penalty. But it may as well been. It may as well be the modern lesser version of that. And Kenny Dillingham comes in. He's a young guy. He's an alumni too. Speaking of alums, comes in, realizes, okay, we have this sanctions going on. We can't play in the bowl game anyway. Let's just get through this season. I have a lot of work to do. Let's just build something out of what we have. He did that. I mean, obviously, what happened last year happened last year. The Jalen Rashada thing. He moves on. He's not at Georgia now. But I guess supposedly, I think he's still there. I don't even know. Who knows? Maybe he's like, I'm playing football anymore. But he leaves. They bring in Sam Leavitt from Michigan State. The word was from guys like the cover 3, Bud Elliott in particular, that Sam Leavitt was going to beat out Jalen Rashada. As someone who trusts Bud Elliott and that group over there, Chip Patterson, Tom Farrelly, and Danny, I believe them. And I thought, okay, this Sam Leavitt could be pretty good. Turns out he is. Again, he's not Burt Kreischer machine, a different time machine. But he has been a machine. Him and Cam Scatabo. I think it's Scatabo. Both of those guys have been very electric. Like Scatabo had like 143 yards. He also threw a touchdown. He had almost 100 receiving yards. Like that to me, it kind of makes me wonder, if if this was last year or even past years, especially with the Heisman stuff, Cam Scatabo probably would have won the Heisman. Like he's a really good player. Probably not since Christian McCaffrey. Maybe we have seen an electric player from his position where he can do certain things. No, see, man, he's not the same level as Christian in college and even in NFL now, but Scabo is very similar. Like he is very, very much so the definition of a utility player. You saw that on full display. Even when Arizona State was down 17-0, they didn't quit. I mean, they competed, they fought, and they knew they were in a fight. Kenny Dillingham knew they were in a fight, and they emptied the chamber, man. They emptied the chamber, and they fought. They went off in the second half. Cam Svatabo again had a huge game, and again, if there's any doubt in Arizona State being questioned being a very good team, there wasn't any. Excuse me, there wasn't any now. I mean, there are like that. That was a very good performance just in the second half alone. Now, first half was definitely scary. Seemed like we were, at least in my point of view when I was watching it, seemed like we were headed towards another blowout playoff game. And here we go again. But luckily we didn't. We got an instant classic. It was, they got to overtime. Unfortunately, um, and then go Arizona State's way. But congrats to Kenny Dillingham, man, and company. An incredible season from being picked last in the Big 12. They made it to Dallas and they won it with Iowa State. They make it to the playoff as one of the teams the first round bye, and they were competitive with the team from the SEC. Tell yourself, you're a State fan, that back this time last year that, hey, we went 3-9 this year. Oh, by the way, we'll be 11-win team next year. If you're an Arizona State fan this time last year, you'd be like, that's stupid. What drugs are you on? I wish I was on that. It was real. So, congrats to Arizona State, but for Texas, some concerns here a little bit. I will admit that some concerns here offensively. Excuse me. Not the cleanest game. They rushed Meisner. Didn't really have or Weisner. I think that's his. Yeah, when I call him Meisner, Weisner had 45 yards rushing. The ground game was not very effective, which was a little bit of a surprise. Quinn Ewers had a decent day. Actually, quietly had a decent day. 422 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had one pick late in the game. Saw really no signs of Arch Manning in this game, which was interesting, to say the least. Now, look, I'm not someone who's big into questioning play calling, but wondered where Arch Manning was. But that's fine. I mean, look, Stark is more qualified as a offensive play caller than I am. So, I mean, that's nothing wrong with that. Just and just a little note there. Just interesting that Arch Manning was not featured, but if anything, that really tells you how much you trust Quinn Ewers. And look, Quinn Ewers has been shit on the whole entire year. Everyone's made fun of him and saying, "Oh, he's regressed a little bit, and he's not the same type of player, and offense has gone worse." And look, I agree. The offense has gone worse. It's not. It's actually the complete opposite. I think the defense has actually gone better than last year. I think it's been flipped a little bit, and some of that is just the time you lost. You lose Xavier Worthy, who, contrary to popular belief, very good player in the NFL right now. To the chagrin of some people. Um, But there was some wide receiver room there, just not the one, or at least not maybe what Sark wants. Certainly not the pieces that he needs to be successful there. Now, look, they've been successful in part of that. I think defensively they've been thankful for that because their defense has been fairly efficient this year. Albeit though it wasn't that efficient in the second half, but look, they survived. You advance. You have Ohio State next week. That's again speaking of a machine. That's a little machine coming towards you. And you got to prepare for it. Again, like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, Ohio State's performance the last few weeks have been duplicable. Can it be a fourth, third time? I don't know. Like I mentioned earlier, I think Sark and that whole staff there defensively, they'll be ready for them. There's no doubt in my mind they will be ready. And especially on the offensive side, I think Sark and them know, at least know now, at least they've seen a lot more film now, especially in this playoff, that Jim Knowles has been very aggressive. They've been utilizing their pieces very well. Sawyer, JGT. those are very much the definition of impact players. Those are guys who can change games. And that offensive line of Texas versus Ohio State's defensive line will be the determining factor in next week's game. With a hint there, what I'm getting at here in my preview. Of course, we'll do the full breakdown and blah 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 and whatnot, and the whole kin caboodle of that. But entertaining game here. Definitely a 10 out of 10, 5-star game. Would recommend if you want to watch it again. I would recommend watching it. Don't think it's on YouTube yet, and God forbid the copyright laws, but certainly watch the highlights if you want to relive that game if you're a Texas fan. Maybe not if you're an Arizona State fan, but magical season for you. And unfortunately, ends for Kenny Dillingham for Kenny Dillingham Company, and we'll see what happens next year. Very excited time, very interesting times for Arizona State. One last little game here. Well, not a little game. It was a huge deal for a number of different reasons. Wasn't to mention, yeah, I think I'll say this next week. The whole Bama thing with killing the board. I'll say that for next week. I'm not gonna exhaust my energy on defending killing the board after they lost to Michigan. Uh, Lost to Michigan on Tuesday, and of course Jalen Milroe is not entering the draft, so he is, waving goodbye to Tuscaloosa, moving on. So it'll be likely the Austin Mack era starting in Tuscaloosa next year. But yeah, we'll discuss that next Tuesday. Definitely, that will be a topic. Don't worry, I'm not swimming around that. Don't worry, I'll address that. That's becoming a developing story, if you will. Unfortunately, with or maybe wrongfully with killing the war in Bama. Actually, real quick here, I haven't done this yet, just to make sure you guys can hear me. I'm going to should have done this a little earlier, but I just forgot. Going to play the audio. I'm using my phone, by the way, for doing this. Going to play the audio for our stream just to make sure you can hear me. So if you hear the feedback here, that's why. Okay. Okay, so you guys can hear me. Just want to make sure I should have done it a little earlier, but just double check as usual. Actually, I'm gonna get some more water real quick here. That was what I was going to do, and then we'll move on to the Sugar Bowl, and then we'll talk about Buccaneers Saints. Notre Dame 23, Georgia 10 in the Sugar Bowl yesterday, which was rescheduled. And by the way, I don't normally talk about real world events, but man, what a horrible way to start the new year. The situation in New Orleans and then whatever happened in Las Vegas, it turns out was not uh, a part of any coordinated attack or anything. But obviously, my thoughts go out with the victims down there. Also, the situation over there in Las Vegas, a very disappointing way to start the new year. Very sad. Uh, Shocked, definitely the best way I can really describe. Hearing about what happened down there in New Orleans, I didn't know I didn't even know what happened. Of course, it happened because of course I live in here in Florida, and that's Central Time, Eastern Time. So I didn't realize it until the morning when I woke up and opened up, or I got the little Apple News thing, and it mentioned something happened in New Orleans, and then of course I watched news coverage and whatnot, and of course then comes the rumors going around that the Sugar Bowl might be being moved just because so the authorities can ensure that there's no other uh, excuse me, a little burp there. Excuse me. No other impending situation, which it turns out was fine. Everything went off yesterday without hitch, but just a very sad situation down there. Very depressing way to start the new year, and hopefully everyone's doing a lot better down there. I know it's been tough, but the game got played yesterday, thankfully, and everything went off fine, and everyone was safe, and there was a lot of security there, as there probably should have been. Of course, didn't like what happened yesterday, but speaking of the game, moving on from real world stuff, uh, this was huge for Notre Dame. Huge for Notre Dame. Huge for Marcus Freeman. Um, as you guys know, I have not been the biggest fan of Marcus Freeman. I had very big concerns after they lost to Marshall a couple years ago. Those sort of got distinguished a little bit, but then they came back up this year when they lost to Northern Illinois. Now, I will go back to what Josh Pitt always says, is that you get 12 versions of a team in a regular season every single year, which he's right about that. I still had that principle of Notre Dame, but I just didn't I don't know, just something to me, I don't know, I just wasn't buying it. Even though they were winning games, and they beat Louisville, cool, good win over a good team. Beat USC, good. Beat Georgia Tech, cool. But I just wasn't feeling it. I just didn't feel to me this was a team just based off the Northern, just not even the Northern Illinois loss, just how sloppy they looked, and Riley Leonard, it seems like they're hiding him a little bit in terms of not running him as much, which is, well, look, that's fair, right? You don't same argument with Jalen Milroe, right? You don't want the a guy who is a running quarterback to be, like being up like a beat up car after a car accident, right? You don't want that. And I think they went about it the right way, but also knowing that they were also not the best wide receiver. Like what the heck? Like one of them is like a former lacrosse player, so it's not like I'm not too confident in that, right? Like, ugh. But they've been winning in spite of that, and they play a very different brand of football. Not the brand I prefer, contrary to the general public. I'm more in line with like the Lincoln Rileys of the world and the Lane Kiffins of the world and scoring a lot of points. That's just my style. Partially because growing up, playing all the NCAA football games, and of course the new one. Uh, I've always been a big fan of scoring a lot of points. That's just me. I know a lot of our folks feel differently, but Notre Dame, they win differently. Certainly, they're more physical brand of football, more of what you will, and more accustomed to, the 2010 era, early 2010s Bama, LSU, Auburn, and 2000s USC, Michigan, to a certain extent, just that physical brand of football, running the football. And look, it's been working. You know, uh, Even despite the offensive limitations, especially with Ray Leonard not being the best passer. I mean, heck, yesterday he threw for only 90 yards. Didn't matter. Yesterday they out physical Georgia. Leonard's legs are a big factor. Defensively, they held Georgia to only 38 yards rushing, at least total from Travis Etienne's brother Trevor. Um, they just physical Georgia, just out physical them, which in a way that I don't think a lot of us have really seen lately, especially in the recent losses they've had, right? Because they finished the season now 11-3. You had the Ole Miss game. Didn't really get out physical there, and they got outscored. Ditto with Bama, right? They just got outscored in the really got pretty basically got outscored, even though it didn't look like it. But it's not a very inspiring performance by Georgia at all. I mean, they couldn't run the football. They struggled to get anything in the passing game really working at all. And I'm not faulting Gunnar Stockton at all. I mean, I think he's actually played a fairly decent game yesterday. It wasn't his fault. I mean, like he actually looked pretty good, but just the physicalness of Georgia, the injuries they have there, and Josh P mentioned this yesterday with the 12-team playoff, and now with an extended season because now you play the same amount of games. Now, if you play the playing games and national championship, you're basically playing an NFL schedule. Injuries happen, man. I mean, NFL as a Bucs fan, we see it. Players go out. You have to have the depth, and especially now with the portal. And I agree with Josh yesterday, and he mentioned that with the portal era and NIL, teams like Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, you don't have the luxury of having all of the players. You don't have like a full deck of cards anymore. You lose some of your cards now because a lot of them either leave, get injured. Like you just don't have the depth anymore. And I think with Georgia this year, you're showing that the depth they have there is not what it has in the past couple of years. And I'm not saying that Georgia's going anywhere. They're not. They're not like going into the abyss or anything. But they're gonna be fine, but there's certainly some things they have to learn. I think they will learn that. A lot of these schools will learn how to adapt and survive, and not get left behind in the past and whatnot. They'll find a way to adapt. They'll be back. Um, Certainly, I think Gunnar Stockton is probably the future there at quarterback. I think remember the running back room needs to be overhauled. I think that's one place that I think you'll see Georgia work in, especially probably in the spring portal. I know recruiting they've been obviously they're a top 5 recruiting type team usually historically, at least under Kirby Smart, so that's not a problem. But depth there's an issue. There's no doubt in my mind. This was a result of depth in the portal and some of the attrition they've had there. I know a lot of people will also be bringing up the off the field issues. Nothing has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with the off the field issues. Just depth and injuries and just got physical. And with Notre Dame, it's interesting with Notre Dame here because again, like I said, I did not have any. I just wasn't really I don't know, like paying attention. I was paying attention to them. I just didn't really treat Notre Dame seriously. And now here they are. So now it makes it interesting given their brand of football. They play Penn State, by the way, just a little reminder. They match up with Penn State. And Penn State, much like Georgia, is a very physical team and run the football. Drew Rally, Drew Aller, you know, all the like. Can they match the physicality of Penn State? I think they can. Will they be able to? Because I think defensively Notre Dame to me probably the best unit as a collective. Well, actually, I can say them and Ohio State both are the best defensive units. I think. And then you probably have Texas and Penn State, but But all 4 of these teams both have really good defenses. I mean, these games, if I would, just give you guys a little bit of a preview here, just before we do our predictions and stuff next week. Fully expect these games to be very physical, low scoring probably. Don't expect any of these games to be very high scoring and would be a little bit surprised by that. If it is the case, then it'll be just these offenses are just really physical and like really, really physical and even more even more physical than the defenses are going against. But hats off to Notre Dame, man. I mean, that's narrative surrounding them the past few years is that, oh man, they can't win the big game. They can't win the BCS bowl, and well, he's back when there was BCS, and then the New Year's Six, and now just the playoff. Here they are, they won the Sugar Bowl, and here they are now, 13-1, and ever so slightly getting closer and closer to competing for, excuse me, for a national championship, which is crazy to think about. I mean, that's just insane that here they are, 1 win away from playing for a national championship, and they lost in over Illinois, and that does happen. If their name does win the national championship, would be the worst loss of any national championship winning team. Which I will just say this, and then we'll move on to the Bucs Saints preview. I have a stinging suspicion that that may be something we will continue to see. Like that will be something that we will be seeing more with the expanded playoff. Whether it be the 14 teams or 12 teams or 16 or whatever format they will use in the future. You will have teams like this that will have bad loss, but will be in because they have to fill the bracket somehow, right? Of course, in the old system, they wouldn't be in, right? Like Ohio State, Penn State, Texas probably would be in, I think. Actually, trying to think. Notre Dame probably would be in, I think. Penn State would not. Georgia would not. Texas would be, and then Ohio State, no. But but yeah, that's kind of weird that all these teams, most of them except for Texas, probably would be in the playoff. Would not be in the 14 playoff. Now here they are in the playoff. We'll get some water real quick here, and then we'll do Bucs Saints preview. Been going for about how long have we been going for? About 51 minutes. About what I thought. So we'll spend some time on Bucs Saints, and then we'll get out of here. So we'll some water real quick, and then we'll move on. Bucs Saints. Game 2, 1 o'clock this Sunday on Fox. I will, by the way, will be at the game this Sunday. I will be present at the stadium for the first time in a while. Very excited. First time going to the Bucs Stadium for an NFL game. So very excited there. Been a Bucs fan my whole entire life, but haven't had the luxury of being able to go to any of their games. Now here we are. Of course, the folks calling this game, of course, is going to be Tom Brady will be there. So who knows? Maybe I'll be able to see him. How about that? Just actually be able to be in the same place that an actual legend is being at. Will be at. Of course, not just him. Of course, you have Kevin Burkhardt, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Bernali. They're all legends in their own right too. I mean, they've been doing it for a long time, especially Andrews and Rinaldi. But that's incredible thinking that Tom Brady will actually like, I'll be in the same building as him. Like, not many people can say that, which is insane. Let alone, seeing guys like Mike Evans and another future legend, Levante David, being able to see all those guys there in person, first time ever, which is insane. But this Saints game is interesting to me. So when looking at this game, of course, this scenario here for Tampa, if you haven't noticed this already, I'm sure if you're a Bucs fan like me, you win tomorrow or not tomorrow. Teams are playing tomorrow, but not the Bucs. They play Sunday. You win Sunday, you win the division. It's done with because the Falcons lost last week or on Monday to not Monday, Sunday to the Commanders. So so the Commanders did help you out a little bit because the Cowboys lost kind of hurt a little bit there. Didn't really appreciate that. kind of not the best way to start my Christmas excuse me, my Christmas holiday, but whatever. If you guys recall, did have some concerns about that game, but anyway, Panthers game. I wasn't here to do a preview for that. Felt confident. Didn't really think the Panthers were really much of a threat, and clearly they weren't. The Saints kind of feel the exact same way here. They're a team to me that feels like they're in dissension mode. They're getting a new coach. It's sort of like a lame duck situation with the interim guy who, I guess I won't use the nickname that some people use for him, but It's, of course, it's a rivalry game. Obviously, there's no real intensity of this one. Now, the intensity will still be there. It's not the same, right? Because again, the Saints are out of the playoffs. They're looking forward to a draft pick and a new coach. We'll see who that is or whom that will be. As a Bucs fan, I kind of hoping they don't get someone like Mike Vrabel because I know he's a good coach. But um, I think for Tampa, really in this game, you have to get on top of them early. That's just the point blank. You have to get on top of them early, show your physicality. And Brookie Irving has been probably the best. Gosh, I mean, if guys like Jaden Daniels didn't exist, like Bucky Irving to me would be getting my vote for Rookie of the Year. He's not going to win it realistically, but he would. I'll at least put him in my top five because he's been a machine at running back for Tampa this year. Him, Rashard White, Sean Tucker. I think we'll probably see all three Sunday, given if there is some separation from Tampa, they probably want to rest their starters a little bit because they will, of course, look at the fourth seed. But how can the Saints make this game close? Now, as a Tampa fan, this is our biggest rival. I hope it's not a close game. I don't think it will be a close game. Well, actually, take that back. I don't. Excuse me. I don't think it'll be like a tight game, but I do believe. I can spoil it here. I think the Saints will cover a little bit, but I'm not expecting this to be like an overtime game, right? I'm not expecting like any wackiness, crazy thing to happen, though it could happen. But the Saints were to win this game, it would have to be some combination of Spencer Rattler having a big game, if it is him, which is not a guarantee. I guess he will be the starter because Derek Carr's done and Taysom Hill's out for the year as well and whatnot. So if Spencer Rattler has a good game and Baker throws more interceptions like he's been known to do so the last month or so, he didn't last week, but uh, Dallas he did. He didn't look very efficient then. Or, turnovers happen, like I just mentioned, injuries pile up for Tampa because they've been injured a little bit. Antoine Winfield's been out, in and out of the lineup. Um, but I do suspect Tampa's defense will deflect their muscle here. Vita Vea, Kalijah Kancey, Levante David. And that to me, like the best defensive line in the NFL, or at least in one of them, is Tampa. Like that, just the fact. I mean, it's so interesting that I'll be able to see these guys in person for the first time. How different it is from seeing them on TV. Like, even on TV, like, Vita Vea is like a mountain. Like he is like a may as well just be a big boulder. And I'm sure seeing him in person and like Mike Evans in person too, it's gonna look a lot different than it does on TV. Certainly felt this way too when we at least when I went out to the Panthers Chargers game to do some pre-scouting, if you will. Like seeing some of those guys in person is a lot different than on TV, at least in some cases. But certainly will be the case here. And I fully do expect Tampa to take advantage of the weaknesses that Saints do have on the offensive line. So they don't have the pieces to be successful. At least from what I can see. The first game of of the series of this year was 51-27. Tampa starts out tough. Middle of the game gets a little bit weird. The Saints end up taking the lead in that game at some point, I believe, if I recall. Yeah, they do. Then Tampa storms back. Is that performance duplicable? I don't think it is. I don't think it's going to be that bad. That bad of a blowout. I don't expect Tampa to score 50 points again like they did that game and, of course, last week. I do suspect that the Saints, because it's a rivalry game, of course, they can spoil Tampa's seasons, especially if well, I mean, it does help too because all of Saints, Falcons, Tampa, they're all playing the same time, so there's no mystery. You don't have to wait or anything like that, which is good. Um, but just based on what happens too for some of these other games, the Saints could ruin Tampa's season. I would hate it. It would suck. I would not feel good to go to my first Bucks game and they lose. It wouldn't be the first time, unfortunately, for any team I've seen play before. But if Tampa does lose this game and Spencer Rattler has a good day and Baker struggles, they throws interceptions and that Saints defense somehow steps up somehow, it'll be very bad. Of course, they lose the division because they have to honor the head-to-head for Falcons, and at that point, Tampa would just have to hope and pray for a wild card spot, which is probably like a 10% chance of happening, because if some other teams would probably sneak their way in, it's based on head-to-head stuff. But I do think Tampa will win. By the way, FanDuel has Tampa as a 13.5 point favorite. This seems about right in my opinion. I don't think it should have been too little bit shouldn't be any higher than that. So, because I have a lot of faith in this team with, Liam Konosi and Todd Bowles as a defensive coach, I think they will be able to handle the Saints a little bit. I do think the Saints, because of the passion and knowing that they can help out the Falcons a little bit, I do expect the Saints to be close, but I do think the Bucs will win. So I think take the Bucs to win. I unfortunately will take the Saints to cover, but I cannot pick the Saints to win. I will never do that. Even in the years that Tampa will be, horrible, like in years will they be hoping for a good draft pick. I can't do it. I hate the Saints. I respect them though, but when it comes to playing them, I don't like them. Of course, as a rival, our biggest rivalry, that's something I take. Excuse me, I take very personally. And yeah, for Tampa, if they win here, they will be in. No, that it doesn't matter what the Falcons do or anything, they will be in, and I guess it'll be the Falcons who would be hoping for, I guess, a wild card spot. So that's the show. So just got it within an hour. So the plan is again, I will be on the road in Tampa this weekend, as I just mentioned. Be at Raymond James. I'll be ready. I'm happy it'll be a 1 o'clock game. It'll be good weather too. 60 degrees, a little bit cooler, but not terribly cold. So it'll be at least somewhat football weather. Probably more fall like again. I apologize for if I sound stuffy. Uh, it's got a little cold during the Christmas holidays. Feeling a lot better now than I did a week ago. But we'll be back Tuesday for a regular show as usual. I'll give you guys more of a lead time for that. Have the stream ready to go probably that Monday. Topics and stuff. We'll preview the playoff games for Thursday and Friday, more than likely. Some other topics in there as well. Transfer portal going crazy. So I haven't even mentioned that. Like some of the movement there with LSU, Auburn too, making some big moves. Mentioned on Twitter with Eric Singleton, their receiver. Talking more about that on Tuesday. What a big deal it is for Hugh Freeze and Auburn. Um, now of course the killing the board Bama thing. But yeah, there's a lot to cover. If there's any breaking news in between now and then, go check out my Twitter at @4verts_pod for any initial reaction to breaking news or whatever, any commentary. Of course, I'll be at the game Sunday. Uh, very excited for that. First Bucs game there. Thankfully, too, it's a 1 o'clock game, not a 4 o'clock. Because again, some of us do have lives you get back to on Monday. Of course, now the holidays are over with. But Happy New Year. Hope you guys had a Merry Christmas and all that. So until Tuesday, enjoy the NFL games this weekend. Games start tomorrow, by the way. There's 2 games on ABC. There's no more Monday Night Football, at least traditionally. Then the restaurant, the restaurant Sunday. So until Tuesday, enjoy the games this weekend. Have fun. Take care, and we'll see you guys on Tuesday.